Hello. This sequence is actually going to begin with your choice of some kind of inversion or possibly arm balance, if that feels like your thing. I want you to experience something that takes you a little upside down or gives you some kind of experience of flight. And then we're going to take it down to the ground and do some nice stretching together. So choose. You could do a crow or crane pose, which I'll just briefly demonstrate here. Or if that's not your thing, you could be setting up for a headstand, forearm stand, maybe you can do handstand, maybe you've got a wall nearby. I'll go ahead and demonstrate the crane pose today. And maybe you're ignoring my instructions and doing your own inversion instead, okay? But we'll just spend a couple minutes on this. So crane, as opposed to crow where the knees are outside of the legs, with crane, you're actually going to tuck your knees, you're going to come up to your tiptoes, hands are on the ground. You're going to tuck your knees up into your armpits if you can. Start to shift the weight forward into the hands. Oh, my legs are pretty slippery because it's hot and sweaty here. But you're going to tip the weight forward and see if you can get those knees up into the armpits. Really engage your core. Bonus points if you're sweating and also have coconut oil on your skin. And then you're really kind of rounding up through the upper back, pulling your belly back to your spine, and you're going to pick up your toes and touch your toes up toward you. Now, if you can hold that for a few breaths, great. If you're just learning, you're just going to pick up one knee at a time, right? See what it feels like. One foot and then the other. Sorry, not the knee. The knee stays up in the arm. One foot and then the other. And as always, as I always say, I'm happy to create a little tutorial for you if you want more information on that. Whatever you've been working on in these first couple of minutes of this practice, start to wind it down. Take a little break. If you've been doing headstand, forearm stand, or handstand, just come into child's pose. Same if you've been in crow. If you're like, oh man, that feels really good, I want to fly around a little bit more, pause the video, fly around a little bit, and then come back. If you're still with me, you're gonna just now slither onto your belly. Keep your forearms on the ground for Sphinx pose, right underneath your shoulders. Spread out your fingers wide. Feel your forearms down on the ground. Press your feet into the earth. Pull the back of the heart forward through the front of the heart. Take a couple of breaths here. Notice the sensation. Then just to feel it, tuck your toes under and try to do the same thing with the toes tucked under. The legs might be a little bit more lit up. If it shoves some weight into your low belly, don't worry about dropping the pose down a little lower or further forward, right? Or just engaging the belly to protect. And now, as if you're breathing in through the soles of your feet, take a big breath in. And then stick out the tongue, lion's breath, bulge your eyes, maybe cross the eyes. Awesome. Then go and take your elbows out wide and just let your head rest down on your hands. Your hands will stack and your head will rest. And you can wiggle out the hips a little bit. And then set up for a gecko pose. So that's fingers wide off of your mat. Your elbows will come up over your wrists, right? So you need lots of space. See this? And then I've got my like little lizard pads on my fingertips gripping to the floor. Take a big breath in. And then exhale, you're going to drop your left shoulder down and look over your right. So it's a little twisty. I'll show it from another angle in a moment. Inhale, come up. And then dip your right shoulder. Look over your left. So I'll face front and show the same pose this way. Okay, so you're lifting, inhale. Exhale, dip your left shoulder. Look over your right. Inhale, come up. And my knees are only bent because I don't have a lot of room back here. And exhale, dip the right. And look over the left. Let's do it one more time. Your legs should be streaming straight back behind you. Dip left shoulder, look over right. Inhale, come up. Dip your right shoulder, look over your left. Inhale, come up. Go back to a child's pose again. Take a couple of breaths in child's pose. And then come on up. And you're going to set up for Parigasana gate pose. You may want a blanket underneath your knees. I have a double mat situation here, so it's pretty padded for me. But you might want a blanket. What you're going to do, and yeah, and also I'm sideways on my mat to show you this way, but you can do it right side on your mat. You'll just have your foot off of the mat. It's totally fine. I'll show it this way first. Left foot off to the side, left hand down the leg, and right arm alongside your ear. Okay? Yeah? Okay, great. Take a couple more breaths here. Parigasana gate pose. Option to move that arm, that top arm, if you want. Couple more breaths. Face the same way that you're probably facing. And then go ahead and lift that right arm up now. Use your core, really pull the belly to the spine, and then is it possible to take that left knee under the left hip again? Woo, just using the core. Okay, now, just a little moment here. I want you to backstroke that right arm and just find your sacrum. Yeah, so from behind it looks like this. And as you pull the sacrum down and engage the belly, lift the chest a little bit, but no dumping into your low back, right? That doesn't help us fly, right? Just a little moment here. Okay, Parigasana gate pose, other side. Right foot comes out to the right. Right hand goes down and left arm reaches. There is a version where the toes point out and there's a version where the toes point forward, like the same way that you're facing. I like to point mine forward, but you can experiment. And then move the arm. And we're just seeing, how do my wings work? Breathe, feel. And then pause with your left arm up. Engage the belly. You maybe want to kind of touch your belly and kind of feel it become engaged. And then see if that right knee can go back under the right hip really nicely. And then backstroke the left arm. Find your sacrum. And then lift up through your heart and maybe look up toward the sky. But don't let the low back, don't let the butt stick out and the low back start to get strained. Beautiful. From here, I would like to have you just sit right back on your heels for a moment, or if that's uncomfortable, just any comfortable seated position. We're actually going to do just a little mini pause for breath work, so do make sure that you are comfortable wherever you're seated. Take your right hand in front of your face and touch your third eye with your middle finger. Rest your thumb outside of your right nostril and your ring finger outside of your left. Breathe in through both nostrils. Breathe out through both nostrils. Then plug up the right and breathe in through the left. And switch. Plug up the left, breathe out through the right. Stay on the same side. Inhale right. Switch, exhale left. My nostrils making some funny noises. That's okay. Inhale left. We switch before the exhale right. We stay on the same side. Inhale right. And switch, exhale left. And if you need a slightly different pace, figure out the exercise and do the pace for yourself. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Slow is good, right? But your own breath capacity is the most important thing. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Now float that right hand down. Inhale through both nostrils. Exhale through both nostrils. Really nice. From here, I'd like for you to come to downward facing dog, but move slowly. So place your hands really nicely. Tuck your toes under and lift up the hips. And just feel what this shape feels like after that amount of practice that we've done so far. Take a couple of breaths. And then come forward into plank pose. You're going to hover in plank pose here for a moment, belly to the spine, and feel your back body light. Yeah? Feel the back body like it's yearning up toward the sky, like it's made of sky. Lower all the way onto the belly. And then you're going to take your left arm straight out, okay, from your shoulder. Push into your right hand and fall over onto that left side. The left side of the head falls onto the ground, not hard, or rests on a block or blanket. This right hand, I like to have it tented just kind of on my mat, and I can kind of steer myself deeper into the stretch or out of it. Yeah, and my right foot is back here just to support. The stretch is happening, I'll show you from this angle, right? The stretch is happening here. So sometimes we do this at the wall in my live classes, right? You could try to go to the wall if that's better for you. But the idea is that would look like this, right? Walking away from the wall so that you got that. Yeah. Ooh. All right, stay where you are. 3 more full, deep breaths. And then you're going to roll over to the other side and do the exact same thing. Now, the thing that I see most often in class is people don't want to bring that arm straight out. They think, oh, that angle won't work. But it does. It's just if it's too intense on the ground, you could go to the wall. But for most people, it works, right? That left hand is here, tented. The left foot is back behind. The right leg can just be straight. Breathe, feel. Let air into those spaces in the chest, shoulder, clavicle that most need air. Come back onto your belly. Forehead on the ground. Bend the knees. Grab a hold of your ankles and bow pose, Dhanurasana. And a lot of people can't actually reach the feet. That's fine. You could either try to use a belt, right? Or just do Shalambhasana with the legs straight. That's locust, and just lift up like that. Those of you who've got the ankles or the feet, go ahead and lift the legs and let the legs lift up the head and the chest. And feel yourself taking flight here. The strength of the legs has a lot to do with our experience of flight in a human body, right? And so use the feet and the legs to lift the heart. One more breath in. And then come on down. And like we did before, hands underneath your forehead and just release the legs and wiggle the hips. And then hands alongside your mid-ribs. Lift up the chest for low cobra, or maybe if you feel really hungry for it, an upward dog. Downward dog as you breathe out. So for this next shape, you are going to want a rolled blanket, and some of you will also want a couple of blocks. Okay, so got my blanket. It's like this. And most of us probably are going to want a couple of blocks. I'll grab those. And this is quite a fat roll. You can also do this by just rolling up your yoga mat, right? I've got one rolled up already here. So if you just rolled up your yoga mat even part way, it would also create a nice roll for you. So whatever you've got, whatever roll you've got, if you know that you have really tight calves and ankles and feet, then a smaller roll is better. So I'm unrolling it, right? So it's much smaller. If you know you got the goods, you want to just go in deep, start with a fat roll. You're gonna come up onto the balls of the feet come on the roll, and the heels stay on the ground. So sideways, it's like this. And then hands could come onto the blocks. Okay. Now my legs are pretty straight because I got fairly open backs of legs, right? But you might need to start with your legs knees super bent. Okay. And again, you may just want to start with less roll. Okay. So experiment with that, and we're actually going to hold this for a minute. Pretty deep stuff. Those of you who are more open, you may be able to bring your forearms down onto the blocks and just drop the head, but experiment with it and feel what you feel, right? So now we really got work happening, opening up the bottoms of the feet, the backs of the legs. Big breath. Maybe you shift the weight a little forward to the fronts of the feet to see what happens then. Maybe you experiment a bit with lifting the hips. We never want to straighten the legs by pushing back the knees. Always want to straighten the legs more in this kind of fold by dropping the heels and lifting the sits bones away. So it's a lengthening top to bottom, not a shoving back of the joint. Ooh, a couple more breaths here. Beautiful. And then I would love for you to make your way now out of all of this. You can just walk the feet back. You can remove the props or unroll your yoga mat and come back onto it depending on what you just had going on. And then come to the front of your mat. Hands on the ground, the feet super wide, feet as wide as your mat, and then just step the left foot back. Lower your left knee. We're going to take this nice deep stretch. Breathe. Oh, feel that breeze. At least for me. Belong to the air element. Invite the air element into that left quad and hip, that space. Now, some of you may want to go down onto the forearms if that feels right. Two more breaths. Surrender on that last exhale. And then come on up. Pick up the left knee. Step forward and just switch sides. Really simple. Right knee lowers. Breathe deeply. If you're going down to the forearms, take your time. Breathe. Feel. Invite air and breath and light into your right hip and quad, solar plexus region. Can you make these last two breaths really full and rich and kind and generous? And then one more time, step forward. Come into a standing forward fold with the feet kind of wide. Again, you kind of shake out the head. If you want to throw in one more crane or crow pose, here you could. We're going to meet in downward dog. If you want to do a little jump back, you could try that. Message me if you want a tutorial. For now, downward dog. And then look forward and step or hop all the way through to sit. And we will be working on that move a little bit later in the season, in this series. But for now, we're going to come to ankle to knee pose. So let's take the right shin over the left. Now, this is a boxy shape where my feet and my knees are stacked. It's not this, right? You're going to get something really different out of that stretch. If you can't do this, if this top knee is really lifted, one pointer is a prop in between. Another is just to give up on this version of it and do the version where you come onto your back. You guys kind of get what I just did there? My top shin is exactly in the same position. This leg straightens and I lay back. Ooh, feels good. Those of you who want to do the forward folding version or the upright version with an option to forward fold, you could stay just like this, or you could walk those hands forward and make your way. And again, we'll be here about a minute, breathing, feeling, inviting in the breath, the air, the light into the dark, or stagnant, or dense places. Notice when the mind tries to flit off somewhere else, and remind it this is where it's at. This moment, this breath. We are the most real in the now. The same way that you know that the now is more real than a memory or a future possibility. Right? You know, be here. Last breath. Come on up. And for our interlude, you're going to take, let's actually take the hands outside of the knees. If you're on your back, you're going to come up for a moment and you're going to take a Navasana. So it could be very simple Navasana, your toes on the ground. Could be shins parallel with the ground. Could be legs straight. It could be arms extended. 1, 2, make it an offering. 3, 4, 5. All right. Let's do the other side of our ankle to knee pose. Totally cool if you want to come onto your back. Remember stacking the shins and making this boxy shape, not a cross-legged position. For many people, that it's also a matter of taking that back, the bottom ankle forward, and then use your props or come onto your back. And lift up through your heart here, breathing in. And then fold forward if that's in the cards for you today. Take your time. At least for me, when I'm really rushing, I often feel not centered in the now. So just slowing down the breath in and of itself can often bring us back to that meditative state that we seek, that we yearn for. Keep reminding yourself that the past is the past. You can let it go. The future may not happen, right? Like, at least not in the ways that we plan all the time. This is your time where you don't mess with all that as much, right? We're walking around all day fiddling with past and future. A couple more breaths here just to be in the now, in the real. Be in this body, honoring it, loving it, and being loved by it. Come on up. And again, hands outside of the knees. And again, just take a little moment in Navasana. You could lift the shins, you could straighten the legs, you could reach the arms forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Touch your toe tips to the ground. And then you're going to round onto your back. You want to make sure there's not a bunch of stuff behind you. It kind of is for me. So here we are on the back. And, actually, if you have a block, grab it. If you don't worry. But if you have the block, squeeze it between your thighs and really kind of engage through the inner thighs. Engage through your belly. Press down through your feet. If you don't have the block, it's okay. But what I'm really trying to do is get you to really activate the inner thighs and the core. And then feel that your hips can become like full of light, full of air, and just lift them like they're very light. They're not actually. They're heavy compared to most other stuff in the body. But when we engage the spaces around them, glutes as well, right? You can lift that up as if they're light. I'm going to give you some options. One is to take a restorative bridge here. You could actually put a block under the sacrum, maybe even the one that's between your thighs. So you don't need it anymore because you'll just rest. Active bridge is to interlace the fingers behind your back, wiggle the shoulder blades together, and then you could press down through the arms and lift up through your hips. Another option is full wheel pose, hands alongside the ears, and come up. Wherever you are, 4 more breaths. Let the head dangle out of the chest if you're in wheel. Press into the hands and the feet. Open up the belly and the heart. Big inhale. And then come down. People on the block, you could either stay there or link up with us. But if being on the block feels really good, you can stay. Those who just came down from wheel pose, you can hug your knees into your chest. And then let's all go ahead and meet, lowering the knees over to the left for a little twist. You may need to pick up your hips, scooch them over a little toward the center. Let your head turn away from the knees. Close your eyes, slow your breath. We'll switch sides, moving nice and slow. We're winding down this practice now. Again, you probably want to put a foot or two on the ground so that you can pick those hips up, move them over to the center. You want your hips and your heart basically in a line, and then the knees are bent and falling over to the right. The arms are straight, and you let your head drop over to the left and breathe. And feel and be. want you to, from here, come into some pose that feels really nice to close your practice. You could have the soles of the feet together and the knees wide apart, a Supta Baddha Konasana for your closing pose, or really anything at all that feels good in your body. Feel all of the spaciousness inside of you. It's the spaciousness that makes us available to fly. Birds' bones are like hollow, right? There's so little weight to them. So invite in the space. Let there be breezes that move through you. And for myself, I haven't wanted as much space as I have right now in my life. I've wanted more. Like, things are lean, and I don't see very many people, and in many ways my life has been emptied. But what I'm learning is that has to happen for those of us who want to fly, right? Who want to experience the next level, the next journey. We have to be able to let go of what was. And we have to be comfortable with space and emptiness. You're welcome to stay right where you are, or extend the legs and come into Shavasana, or really any other restorative pose that feels comforting and comfortable to you. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Let the breeze come through the bottoms of your feet, through the chambers of the leg, hips, torso, heart, arms, hands, throat, head. All your sinuses are empty chambers, really, right? Let them all be cleared by the breeze, by the breath of life. Let there be breeze through the crown of your head. Let the sky hold you. Be the sky. And when we get really spacious, that's when wonder becomes possible. That's when growth becomes possible. As always, I invite you to stay where you are as long as it feels therapeutic, restorative for you. And when you are ready, you'll want to move slowly. You'll want to breathe deeply. Make sure you take a little moment at the end to appreciate this whole opportunity, the whole thing. Om Bolo Shri Sadguru Mata Devi Ki